Today, we're going to talk about the importance of oil, specifically omega-3s and omega-6. We all kind of know how important they are, but I think there's a lot that you actually don't know. So you're going to want to stick around. I'm Risa Morimoto, your host. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, and you're watching Modern Aging, where we chat about innovative and holistic ways to elevate our health and well-being as we age. If you're new to the channel, I'd love for you to subscribe. All you got to do is click on that little red button below with that little bell next to it to be sure to be notified whenever we post a new episode. And if you haven't checked out our website yet, do so at thisismodernaging.com, where we post new podcast episodes, articles, and videos every single week. So my guest today is Udo Erasmus. Some of you may know Udo from Udo's Choice. He is like the pioneer when it comes to oils. He had suffered from pesticide poisoning actually in 1980, and it made him do a whole 180 in terms of his health and really looking at what was needed to optimize his health and well-being. And what he discovered was the essential oil and what we needed to do in order to get our health back to where it was, back to being balanced in nature. And what he discovered was quite shocking. And I think you're really, really going to enjoy my chat with Udo. So check it out. Udo, thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited about our discussion about oils.
Glad to be on. We're going to oil the world today.
We're going to oil the world today. Before you bestow all your knowledge about oils with everybody, I'd love to have a little bit of context in terms of like how you even got to this point where you wrote a book about it, that you create products around different oils. So tell me, where did this all start?
Well, I have background in biochemistry and genetics and biological sciences. I took a year of medicine because I thought it was about health, but it was only about disease. So I left and I said, you know what, I'm going to learn more about health in biology, where you study the normal functioning of normal creatures in normal environments. But nobody calls that health. I didn't know that until I did medicine. They only talk about disease. They call it a healthcare system, but it's actually a disease management system. And it's a misrepresentation of the service they provide, although they do provide a service that has a place. But it shouldn't be called healthcare. It should be called disease management. Healthcare comes from living in line with nature and your nature. That's not what they're doing. They're using heroic interventions. So I had that background. But I wasn't really sloppy about my eating. I ate lots of raw food because I didn't like cooking. And I always thought I had something more important to do than cook. And then I got married and we had 3 kids, and my marriage broke up and I wanted to kill something. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. I had a license from a gardening job that I had had. And so I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. And of course, why pesticides? Because the only function of pesticides is to kill living things. And I wanted to kill something because I was really upset. And so I took the job. I sprayed very carelessly for 3 years. And I got poisoned by the pesticides I sprayed. This is called karma in the East and reaping what you sow in the West. Right? Oh. So I got poisoned. So I went to a doctor and said, what do you have for pesticide poisoning? And she said, nothing.
How did you know you had pesticide poisoning?
It was obvious. I got nausea, dizziness, cramps. If I turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. Which is like, that's not, the brain turns when your head turns, but that's what it felt like. And then no energy, all of a sudden, no energy. And I had come from licking some off my fingers because the people I was doing the spraying for wouldn't let us clean up in their lunchroom. So I was eating my sandwich and I got some of the pesticides I was spraying off my finger. And that finally was the straw, you know. Wow. And at that point, it was like, okay, well, now what do I do? Oh, okay, well, if I do the opposite of what I did to get it, then I should reverse it. So obviously I stopped spraying pesticides. But then I started looking, because I had the background, is how do I help myself? And I hadn't really taken that seriously. So what I did is I went into the Medline database. They had like 16 million study citations, research study citations. Wow. And I looked for everything about health and nutrition, disease and nutrition. on the idea that the body's made out of food. It's actually food, water, and air, but I was just thinking food at that point. So the body's made out of food. So if something goes wrong with the body, then what you need to do is you need to raise your standard of input, right? So you need better food, better air, better water. So if you raise your standard, then in 1 year, 98% of your body will have been rebuilt to a higher standard.
Really?
Because your body is always turning over. Think about water. Let's say you drink 3 liters of water a day. 3 liters is 3 kilograms, right? And if you're normal weight, you will turn over 15 times your body weight in water every year. And water makes up 70% of your body. So there goes 70%. The lining of your digestive tract turns over every 4 days because there's always so much going on, right? So it gets rebuilt. So water goes out and the minerals go out and the vitamins go out and the proteins go out and the fats go out. And that has to be replaced. By the way, that's why we need to eat. Because if the body wasn't always turning over and having to be rebuilt, then once we were grown, we would never have to eat again.
Right.
Right? But we do. Why is that? Because the body is a major construction site, always under renewal. We don't notice it because it's so well done. But by the time the day's gone, 98% of your body will have been turned over and replaced.
But the problem is that we're not eating as well as we should, right?
Well, the problem
We're not
is we
drinking enough
don't
water.
have the high enough standard, right? Because if I have a high standard and I'm really healthy, and then I decide to lower my standard, then in 1 year, 98% of my body will have been rebuilt to a lower standard. See, but because the body always turns over is why healing is actually possible. But it requires setting higher standards. You want to get better, you got to set higher standards. That's true for everything in life in a way. If you drift, you go downhill. If you just react to things, you're going to go down, right? So you need to set a standard, then you basically need to make whatever it takes in order to live to that standard. And then what happens every time you fail, you learn something. And then you go after it again, you fail again, you learn something else, you learn something else, you learn something else. If you don't set higher standards, you don't even learn anything.
Right. No,
Right?
absolutely. So how does oils play
So-
into this whole
So
scenario?
I'm in the journals looking at all this stuff, and I got stuck on oils because they were so confusing. And I can't tell you, one day I was sitting there, I read one study, it said omega-6 is an essential fatty acid. Well, we kind of know that. What does that mean, essential fatty acid? Well, it is a fatty acid or a fat or a part of oil that we have to live and be healthy. We can't make it from anything else in our body. And therefore, we have to bring it in from outside. That's the first part of the definition of essential when it applied to nutrients. Second is if you don't get enough, your health goes down. You're going to get deficiency symptoms because you're not getting enough. They are degenerative in nature. Basically, your body is falling apart. They get worse with time, and if you don't get enough of any essential nutrient long enough, you die. This is like the really important building blocks you have to build the house called body, right? So that's the second part. The third part is if you're going down because you're not getting enough, but before you die, you bring enough of the missing essential nutrient back into the diet, then all of the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed and you get your health back. Because life knows how to build a body that works, provided I take responsibility here at my mouth to make sure that all of the essential building blocks land in the body so that life can use them to do its job. So and my responsibility ends here. Once I've swallowed, I'm not in charge of digestion. I'm not in charge of breaking down the molecules. I'm not in charge of carting the molecules from my stomach or my small intestine to my ankle or my toe, or wherever it's needed. So somehow the need for those things is known to life, and then life carries them to where they're needed. How is that done? And they know there are chaperones that help there. But what is the force that makes the molecules in your body go where they need to go to do the job that keeps that keeps your face from falling off, right? Right? Because if that wasn't amazingly well coordinated, your face would fall off, or your butt would fall off, or your arm would fall off, or the whole thing would drop into a puddle on the floor, right?
That's not attractive. No, I don't
No, no, and it's no way to live.
think.
Right? It's no way to live. So there was this one thing that said omega-6 is an essential nutrient, that you have to have it. And the next study I got into my hand said omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And I'm going, what? It's essential for health and it gives me cancer and kills me? That is completely contradictory. What is going on here? It drove me nuts. And so what it forced me to do is look deeper into oils. How are oils made? What do they look like in the seeds and nuts that contain them? What is done with those seeds and nuts to make oils that are in plastic bottles sitting on your shelf that are colorless, odorless, and tasteless? So there has to be some processing going on. What is the nature of this processing? And what I found out is that they take a seed and nut, they press it, or sometimes they use a solvent to extract the oil. And then they put the oil, because they want a shelf life. The industry wants a shelf life. They're not that interested in health. They're not against health, but they're not for health either. So they want a shelf life, because then I can make oil in Vancouver and sell it to you in England. Right? Now I have a huge market. If I can get a 3-year shelf life, I can ship it around the world. And the industry was very interested in that kind of stuff. So what they do to get the shelf life, because by nature, the essential fatty acids, omega-6 and omega-3, are the most sensitive of all of our nutrients. They are damaged very easily by light, by oxygen, and by heat. And because they're so sensitive, they need the most protection. Now, do we give our oils that protection? No, we don't. We throw it in the frying pan, watch it boil, and turn into smoke.
Right.
and you know that when oil turns into smoke, you wrecked it, right?
Well, no one tells us this, though, right?
No, but I know, but it's not that hard to understand when you think about it. And so my job is to make you think about it.
Right. No,
right?
But it's true. When you say it like that, it's like, oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, I know. And they don't talk about it. Not the researchers either. They do research on damaged oils, and then they apply what they find to the oil when it should be applied to the damage done by the processing. And nobody does that.
Well, let me ask you, what do you mean by damaged oil?
Well, when you react an oil with light, it produces free radicals, and the free radicals cause chain reactions, and many, many molecules change. Like one ray of light will damage 30,000 molecules before it settles down again. So there's a wild electron flying around, reacting with things, changing molecules, and in all kinds of ways. If you react it with oxygen, it goes rancid, smells bad. If you heat it too high, then the molecules twist and turn into trans fatty acids. That's just some. There's like 10 different things, maybe more, that are produced. So you're changing molecules from their natural state, like they exist in nature in the seed and the nut. And you change some of them into molecules that never existed in nature. The body doesn't have a method for taking some of them down. Because if they never existed in nature, why would life have made a program to deal with something that didn't exist? Right? Okay, so the result of this is, because they're the most damaged of our nutrients, more health problems come from damaged oils because of their sensitivity and because they're not treated with the care they need. More health problems come from damaged oil than any other part of nutrition. And the converse, more health problems will be removed if you treat the oils with the care they need in order to retain their natural functions. And when I realized that, and I said, oh my God, 98% of the body turns over, 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3. By the way, just to back off a second, the year after I got poisoned and started looking at nutrition and health and all of that, omega-3 was established as an essential nutrient by the same definition that I just gave for omega-6s. 99% of the population gets too little omega-3 for optimum health. Every cell needs them. They're a nightmare to work with because they're 5 times more sensitive to damage than the omega-6. And I went off like a firecracker. It's like, oh my God, if we could make oils with health in mind by making machinery that protects them from light and oxygen and heat from the time they're closed in the seed where they're pretty well protected because nature's packaging is quite good, to the time they've gone through the pressing and the filtering and the settling and the filling into brown glass bottles with a box around them to keep the light out in glass because plastic leaches into oils and you don't need plastic in your body. And then with the box around and in the fridge because you want to keep them cool because the lower the temperature and the less oxygen and the less light get to the oil, the closer it will remain to its natural state and the more it will unfold its health function in our cells. So I say, wow. And I was like, oh my God, if we could make oils with health in mind, and especially the omega-3s that are too low in almost everybody's diet, and then if we could replace the damaged omega-3s, that are damaged by the industry's processing, if we could replace those with omega-6s made with health in mind, oh my God, we could help almost everybody. And I got so excited. I had no business background. I got so enthusiastic, and we built that whole business on enthusiasm.
Wow. And that's Udo's Oils, which
Udo's Oil, flax oil was the first one.
Oh.
Yeah. But flax oil is poorly
flax oil?
Well, flax oil has the most omega-3s in it. That's the one that's missing the most, but it's poorly balanced. You can become omega-6 deficient on flax oil. I did, and I got dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis-like pain in finger joints, and thin, papery skin. And I fixed it by eating.
When you don't have enough omega-3.
No, that's what happens when you don't get enough omega-6. And flax oil is the only oil that can make you omega-6 deficient because it has a lot of omega-3 and not enough omega-6. So the balance between the two is wrong because omega-3 and omega-6 compete in the body in some ways. So they get in each other's way if the ratio is off.
My God, it's so complicated. How are we supposed to...
That's why we made the blend, to make it easy, because fundamentally it is complicated because every seed has a different amount of oil, and then the fatty acid profile is different for every oil in every different seed. And then you have to mix and match, and how much of this do you need and how much of that do you need, and what do your cells need, and there's confusion in the marketplace about what's the best ratio. We work practically with people. We know what the practical ratio is. Twice as much omega-3 as omega-6. Both need to be made with health in mind.
So you're saying take a spoonful of it, or can you cook with flaxseed oil?
No, you do not want to cook with any of those oils because when you cook them, the industry's already damaged them. When you take them and throwing them in your frying pan, well, let me go back to that. Industry, maybe 1% damage, maybe 0.5% to 1% damage of the molecules in the oil. So I called them and I said, well, when you know that your processing does damage to the oil, why do you do that? Because, I'd been poisoned by pesticides, so I was health conscious, right? And he said, well, one of the reasons why we cook, heat the oil to frying temperature to deodorize it is we can get rid of half the pesticides in the oil. So in my head, I'm saying, what do you mean? The other 50% of the pesticides stay in the oil? I've been poisoned by pesticides. This is not going to work for me, right? And I said to him, well, why don't you start with organically grown seeds that you don't have any pesticides you need to get rid of? He had never heard that.
What?
So he didn't have an answer. So he got really silent for a while, and I waited because I had asked the question. You know, you give him space for the answer, right? He got back. He said, I don't know what your problem is. The oil is 99% good. It's only 1% damaged. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? I mean, he just went off on me, right? So now I back off. I said, well, maybe I'm overreacting. It's only 1%. How do I know what that means? So I said, okay, let me do the math. So I decided to ask the question, if you have 1 tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged, how many damaged molecules would you find in that oil? So, and by the way, our tablespoons are 15 milliliters. Yours are 20. So I'm talking about 15 milliliters of oil, 1% damage. How many molecules?
Am I
Give me a
supposed to
guess.
answer that?
Yeah, give me a guess. Because you don't know, so just give me a guess. There's a
Yeah.
point to this.
1%? I don't
Yeah,
know. 200,000?
Okay, let's say 200,000. Okay. Would you like to know what the real answer is?
I'm a little scared.
60 quintillion.
What?
So not 200,000. So you're 200,000, 200 million, 200 billion, 200 trillion, 200 quadrillion, 200 quintillion. So you got like 15, your estimate is 15 zeros too short. It's actually 14. Fine, if I want to give you benefit out, 13 zeros too short. So that means a million, 1,000, a million, a billion, a trillion. That's 12. So your estimate is 1 trillion times too low. Now, these are molecules that do damage to your health. And you think how much damage you're doing is 1 trillion times less than it actually is. Now, if I said to you, okay, you're going to fly somewhere for a vacation, and you're about to get on the plane, and somebody comes up to you, and this is a person who's a truth teller, you have no doubt to doubt what they tell you. They say, by the way, did you know that your chance of crashing and burning on this trip is 1 trillion times higher than you thought it was? Would you get on the airplane? I was in Ireland. I said to him, I would canoe back to Canada. My chances wouldn't be good, but if it was 1 trillion times higher, and people always estimate at least 1 billion times lower what is the actual damage they're getting from those oils than is the actual damage. That's
So what
why
do we do?
your body needs an oil change. You stop
Literally.
using those oils. Now, you asked about frying. When you fry, first of all, we use 2 to 4 tablespoons of oil a day, ballpark. So you have to multiply that 60 quintillion by another 2 to 4 for your daily intake, right? Then if you use it for frying, you got to multiply that number by another 3 to 6 times, because when you fry oils, you damage them with light, oxygen, and heat all at the same time. So this is huge. This is huge. So what do? Well, if you understand that you've underestimated the danger you're doing to yourself or the harm you're doing to yourself by 1 trillion times or more, do you think that's enough to make you change the way you use oil and change the oils you use?
Yeah. I mean,
Would be for me, right?
yeah. I mean, people are addicted to their deep fried foods, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah, and they're addicted to a drift down the slope into the graveyard. Earlier, a steeper slope into the graveyard. We're all going into the graveyard eventually, right? The bodies all do, right? But you're shortening your life. You're compromising your health. When you compromise your health, you go down faster.
So what
So
should
what
we
I
be doing then? So what should we be doing then?
Well, so that number one, you need an oil change. You need to forget about the oils that are damaged, and you need to forget about damaging them in your frying pan. Frying is the dumbest thing we have ever invented to do with our food in 200,000 years of human existence on this planet.
And we've done a lot of dumb things. So
We have done a lot of dumb things. This is one of the dumbest. In nutrition, this is probably the dumbest. So get your frying pan, bring it out, Turn it upside down, hit yourself on the side of the head with it so it's associated with pain, and throw it out. Do not fry. Go back to cooking in water. Cooking used to mean water. Now cooking means frying. You overheat the foods. The oil overheated increases your risk of cancer. The starches you overheat increase your risk of cancer. The proteins you overheat increase your risk of cancer. Each one independent of the others. This is
So what
complete.
about there are some oils like avocado oil that have a higher burn point. What if you're heating the oil but not to its burn point? Like
Well,
olive oil, I know has
it's called I think they call the smoke point.
a smoke point rather.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? If the oil is damaged long before it turns into smoke. So what they're saying is you can use it if you can't see the damage. And that's marketing. And avocado oil, by the way, there are no standards for how it's made. Nobody has set any standards. That was just published this year. And in that study, they said, well, we should be setting some standards like we've set for olive oil. There are no standards for avocado oil. No standards for grapeseed oil either.
Wow.
And so, again, it's an issue of standards, right? You want something better, you got to raise the standard. That's true for oil production. That's true for, how you eat. Wherever in your life you have high standards, usually things are going pretty well. Wherever you have low standards, that's where your problems are. And if you have no standards and somebody else makes a standard that you then end up living by. You want high standards, you got to set high standards. High standard for health, live in line with nature and your nature. Right? Because health was invented by life in nature for living within and aligned with nature. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get around that. It's like it doesn't matter what the doctor tells you or the pharmacist tells you or the government tells you or anybody tells you. Life didn't come from them. Like life is in charge. Right? And life created those standards. So fresh, whole, raw, organic, mostly plant-based for human beings.
So it doesn't matter what kind of oil. So aside from flaxseed oil, are there other oils that you recommend, or if they're nut or fruit based?
Well, eat the seeds and nuts, but get them not roasted and salted because they salt and roast nuts to hide the rancid flavor. They need to be fresh, and so you eat seeds and nuts that contain fats in their natural state. So these are raw seeds and nuts and fresh. It's always fresh, whole, raw, organic, right? So between that and the oils made with health in it. So what happened is I started just out of this enthusiasm that happened. I ended up creating a way to make oils with health in mind. So they're very tight machinery. And I got credit for starting a new industry. And I actually got put into the Canadian Health Food Hall of Fame for the work I did developing oils made with health in mind. Flax oil was the first. Udo's oil is what I use now because it's better balanced. So that's how it came about.
And you also
And then I wrote a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. And it's a classic. They use it in nutrition schools. Very thorough, not a lot to add. And I preempted quite a bit of research that wasn't available yet. That's all been borne out because I understand the molecules because I was so into it. So it's kind of like, it's almost like you channel it or something. You think how the molecules think, and then you can see what, and people would say things, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. But we had a lot of experience too. And what people guessed about and we're fearful about and imagined about and pontificated on, most of that wasn't true. And we had more. So it's very interesting to be in the core of an arena, because I was there at the right time, got poisoned at the right time, asked the right questions, and a lot of things happened that were not in my control. The fact that omega-3s were established as essential is like a gift from the universe, because I was there at the right time So I got to the head of that and basically looked at all of the oil issues and said, biggest thing is we don't get enough omega-3. Out of omega-3, the body makes all kinds of different molecules that have regulatory functions and energy production functions and mood and brain and bone structure functions. And super important in pregnancy because a woman has to build two brains, or we has to maintain her brain and she has to build a new brain. And the child will take the omega-3s from her brain if she doesn't have enough for the kid, because nature says that the child's the future and mom's the past. And if we have to, we will sacrifice the past for the future. And so then the child gets priority on the oils. And what happens to women when they don't get enough of the right kind of fats, omega-3 and omega-6, undamaged, then the children take it from her, and that sets them up for conditions that men don't get very much, which is depression, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, collagen, inflammatory, and autoimmune diseases. Women get those from 2 to 15 times more frequently than men. The children, each child gets less than the previous child, and each child depletes the mother further. This is all established in research. And the researchers say that women need to make sure that they get both essential fatty acids in the right quantities in their diet, both for their own health and for the health of their children. With omega-3s, we work with athletes. Within a month of starting on a tablespoon per 50 pounds or 25 kilograms of body weight per day, and we're talking about 15 milliliter tablespoons here, when they did their sport to exhaustion, within a month they had 40 to 60% increase in performance.
Wow.
Just by getting their oils right.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
huge.
That's huge.
And when
So
you
what
get
do you think
omega,
about like the supplement, the pills? You
well,
think
there are
it's better
two. Yeah, it's a good question. There are two things you have to look at. One is the food oil foundation. The food oil foundation is one of the pillars of nutrition. When you talk about nutrition in a nutrition course, the 3 pillars of nutrition: proteins, carbs, and fats. Okay, so those are foods, not supplements. That's why I call it the food oil foundation. And omega-3 and omega-6 in the food oil foundation are in their basic form that comes from plants. Alpha linolenic acid is the omega-3, and linoleic acid is the omega-6. If you get enough of that, your body can make everything that's in fish oils. But even if it couldn't, you would still need it, because we need more oil than little pills can supply. We recommend basically for most people 2 to 4 tablespoons a day, mixed in food and intake spread out over the course of the day. There's 14 horse pills, big capsules in a tablespoon. So we're talking 28 to 56 capsules. You cannot do with fish oil what you need to do with the food oil foundation. And then you can maybe add a supplement to that. And fish oil is very damaged, so I've never recommended it. Krill oil may be better. You can also get some algae-made oils, EPA, DHA. But you only take 1 to 3 grams of that. But the problem is, what people think is, well, if my oils are off, I'll just flip a supplement at them, 3 grams of fish oil. But that doesn't fix your damaged foundation. The only way you can fix your food oil foundation is by changing your food oil foundation. And that's more important than the supplement. Then maybe you can add a supplement. Some people might get more benefits. But trying to be healthier just on supplement alone doesn't work. You can't do it, because fish oil cannot fix what's broken in your food oil foundation.
Right.
Right?
So can you have too much omega-3, omega-6?
If you get more omega-3 than you need, your body will basically burn it as energy. And it will increase your metabolic rate. You might get a little thermogenesis from it. It might make you sweat in summer if you take too much. And in winter, it keeps you warm. So too much is not an issue. The only other issue is if you don't have enough herbs, spices, and greens in your body. That's where our antioxidants come from. Because the oils produce a nice fire. That's called life. Like you want to be, you want to have a good fire because that gives you energy and vitality and makes you capable of doing all kinds of things. But a good fire throws sparks, and you don't want to burn the carpet. So the screen in front of your fireplace that stops the sparks. In the body, the fire of life, sparks are inhibited by antioxidants. They snag the sparks and put them out. So you always need both in everything you do. And when the industry makes an oil, there are antioxidants in the seeds and nuts. There are antioxidants in oils like fresh oils. They take all of that out. So now you get an oil that, to the extent that it's not damaged, gets you fire, but you get no spark control because the industry removed the spark control from the seeds and nuts, right?
Wow. Well, Udo, this has been amazing.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about you or read more about you, or, I guess I would definitely recommend getting your book.
Yeah. Fats That Kill is a very seriously thorough piece of work. Yeah.
And if they want to purchase your oils, where do they go?
The oils are they're in the health food stores and the chemist shops. Or they can go to the website. The website is udoschoice.com, udoschoice.com. And we talk about oils. I also work with enzymes and probiotics because digestion is the second most neglected area. So I like to take the areas that are most neglected and shine a little light into them. So I like doing that.
That's awesome.
So that's the other place to go to get the information and the distributors. There's a distributor in the UK and there's a distributor in Ireland and there's distributors in about 40 countries. And the list of distributors is on the website.
Udo, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thank you.